Beyond the Hidden Chapter. What is a year of your life worth? Tonight we'll find out. The year I turned 12, my father sold a year of his life to fix the roof. I remember the day the man from Life Exchange came to our flat in Croydon. He wore a gray coat and carried a tablet thin as a leaf, and he smiled the way people smile when they've decided not to feel anything. My father signed where the man pointed. There was no needle, no machine, no flash of light. The man simply pressed his thumb to the screen, then asked my father to press his, and a soft chime sounded, the same chime a phone makes when a payment goes through. £41,000 for 1 year. My father laughed and ruffled my hair and said, "Worth it, eh? Now we won't drown when it rains." He didn't look any different. That was the thing nobody tells you. You don't age in front of the mirror. The year doesn't get carved out of your face. It gets taken from the far end, from the part of your life you were never going to see coming. The man in the gray coat told us, almost kindly, that the technology only ever touched the future. "We don't take the years you've lived," he said. "We take the years you haven't met yet." I have thought about that sentence every day of my adult life. By 2041, when this story really begins, nobody flinched at the idea anymore. Life Exchange had become as ordinary as a bank. There were branches on every high street, between the coffee shops and the phone repair places, with their soft blue logo of an hourglass turned on its side so the sand never finished falling. The science behind it had a long name and a Nobel Prize attached, but everyone just called it the reading. A scan of your blood, your cells, the tiny clocks inside them, and a machine could tell you, accurate to within a few months, how long you had left. 81 years, 63, 44, a number printed on a card, like a sentence handed down by a court that didn't believe in mercy. And once you had a number, you could sell from it. They made it beautiful. That was the genius of it. The adverts showed a young couple buying their first home, the husband signing away 3 years so they could afford the deposit, the two of them laughing in an empty living room with the sunlight coming through. They showed a woman starting a bakery, a man paying off the debt that had been crushing him since university, a family escaping a flat with mold on the ceiling. "Your future is an asset," the billboard said. "Why wait to live well?" What they didn't show you was what came after. Because once a thing can be sold, it can be demanded. Banks began to ask, quietly at first, whether you'd considered lifespan-backed lending. Landlords learned that a tenant short on rent could always find a few months somewhere. And the people who had years to spare, the ones who never had to sell, they simply kept theirs and bought everyone else's, and grew rich in the only currency that had ever truly mattered. We had a name for them by then, the time rich. You could spot them by how slowly they moved, how little they hurried, because they were the only people left in the world who genuinely believed there was always tomorrow. And the rest of us, the time poor, we learned to count in a way our grandparents never had to. Not pounds, not pence, years, months, weeks. The change we kept in the back pocket of our own mortality. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 36 years old. I drove a delivery van for a logistics company that paid me by the parcel, and I had 11 years left on my card. 11. I'd checked it twice, certain it was a mistake. The reading isn't only about how long you'll live untouched. It factors in everything. The years my father had sold before he passed, the stress that lived in my chest like a second heart, the cigarettes I'd smoked in my 20s, the cheap food, the missed sleep. 11 years meant I'd be lucky to see 47. I didn't tell anyone. You learned not to. A low number was a thing people could smell on you, like fear. But none of that. Not the van, not the number, not the rain that still got into the flat my father had died in. None of it mattered to me the way one small person mattered. Sophia. She was 9 years old, and she was the entire reason the sun came up. She had her mother's eyes, which is a cruel thing to be left with when the mother is gone, and she had a laugh that started somewhere down in her stomach and arrived too big for her body. She drew constantly, on receipts, on the backs of my delivery manifests, on the steamed-up windows of the van. She drew the same thing over and over that winter, a girl standing at the bottom of a staircase made of light, looking up. I asked her once what was at the top. She thought about it very seriously, the way she thought about everything, and said, "I don't know yet. That's why she's looking." Her mother had left when Sophia was 3. Not died. Left. Decided that the arithmetic of our life was a sum she didn't want to keep solving. I won't pretend it didn't break something in me that never quite set straight, but it also did the strange thing that breaking sometimes does. It welded Sophia and me together. We were a unit, a 2-person country with its own rituals and its own language. Friday nights were chips eaten out of the paper on the living room floor. Sunday mornings she'd climb into my bed with her cold feet and we'd watch the old films, the flat ones from before, where nobody had a number and everybody just lived. I would have given her anything. I used to say that the way everyone says it, as a figure of speech, a thing you tell your child to mean "I love you" in a louder voice. I didn't know yet that the world had built a machine to take me literally. It started with her getting tired. Just tired at first. A 9-year-old who didn't want to run. Then the bruises that bloomed on her arms from nothing, from the soft press of a seatbelt. Then the morning she stood up from the breakfast table and folded straight back down onto the lino and looked up at me with an expression I will carry to whatever end I'm given, not pain, but apology. As if she were sorry to be trouble. The hospital kept us for 3 days. They were kind, the NHS people, kind and exhausted and stretched so thin you could see daylight through them. A young doctor with tired eyes sat me down in a room with a box of tissues already on the table, which is how you know before anyone says a word. It was a disorder of the blood. The name doesn't matter. It was long in Latin, and it meant that the marrow inside my daughter's bones had begun, slowly and without malice, to forget how to keep her alive. Untreated, the doctor said, choosing each word as if it cost him something. She had perhaps a year, maybe a little more. "But it's treatable," I said. I heard my own voice from very far away. "You said treatable." He nodded. There was a therapy, new but proven, a way of rebuilding the marrow, retraining it, a course of treatment over 18 months at a specialist center. The survival rates were extraordinary, 90%, more. "So we do that," I said. "We do that one." He looked at the box of tissues instead of at me. "It isn't available on the NHS," he said. "Not yet. It's still classed as elective, private only. How much?" And he told me, £900,000. I want to describe the sound a number like that makes when it lands on a man who earns by the parcel. It isn't loud. It's the opposite of loud. It's the sound of every door in a long corridor closing at once, very gently, one after another, until you're standing in a room with no way out and the lights going off. £900,000. I had, in the whole world, 4,000 in savings and a van I didn't own. I did the thing you do. I called everyone. I begged the bank. I started one of those online appeals and watched strangers give us £40, £80, £100. Kindness like rain on a fire, beautiful and useless against the size of the thing. I sold the few things we had worth selling. By the end of the second week, I had raised against £900,000 the sum of 19,000. And Sophia got tired in a new way, a way that frightened me. I knew, of course I knew, the whole time. I'd known the moment the doctor said the number. There was only one place in 2041 where an ordinary man could find £900,000 in an afternoon. It sat on the high street between the coffee shop and the phone repair place, with its soft blue hourglass turned on its side. I just couldn't let myself walk through the door, because I knew what walking through it meant. The Life Exchange branch was calm and warm and smelled faintly of bergamot, which I later learned they pumped through the events on purpose, the way casinos pump in oxygen. A woman named Priya sat me down in a frosted glass room and gave me tea I didn't drink. She was perhaps 50, beautifully dressed, and she had the slow, unhurried movements of the time-rich. I noticed she never once looked at the time. She already knew why I was there. They always do. They have the medical flags, the credit alerts, the appeals that fail. She let me say it anyway, because she understood that I needed to hear myself say it out loud, to make it real. My daughter is sick, I said. I need 900,000 pounds. Priya nodded as though I'd told her something gentle. She turned her screen toward me. Mr. Carter, I want to be honest with you, because you deserve honesty. She had clearly said this exact sentence many times. At current market rates, a year of remaining lifespan is valued, for someone in your demographic, your health profile, at approximately 60,000 pounds. I did the arithmetic before she could. My mouth was very dry. 15 years, I said. 15 years, she agreed softly, which would clear the treatment in full, with a small amount left over. And then she told me the thing I hadn't let myself calculate. She didn't want to. I watched her not want to, but the rules required disclosure. Mr. Carter, your current reading is 11 years. The room went very quiet. I could hear the bergamot. I don't understand, I said. But I did. You have 11 years of measured remaining lifespan, Priya said, and for the first time she looked at me, really looked, and I saw that she hated this part, that some piece of her was still alive under all that slow money. You cannot sell 15 years that you do not have. The system won't authorize a sale that takes you below the line. Then what do I do? It wasn't a question. It was a man falling. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, very carefully, the way you'd hand someone a blade. There is one instrument. We don't advertise it. It's called a full assignment. You can sell your entire remaining lifespan, all 11 years, at a premium rate because of the certainty involved. The premium would bring the total to, she touched the screen, 660,000. That's not enough. You said 900. No, she said. It isn't enough. And she let the silence do the cruel work, and I understood that there was no version of this where I both lived and saved her. The machine had done its sums. To save my daughter, I would have to sell more years than I owned. To sell my whole life was to come up short, and orphan her anyway. There was no door. There had never been a door. I went home and sat in the dark, and I did not cry, because Sophia was asleep down the hall and our walls were thin, and a father learns to grieve quietly. I sat there until the radiators ticked cold and the sky went gray at the edges, and somewhere in those hours something in me went very still and very clear, the way water goes still right before it freezes. There was a way. There had always been a way. I just had to stop being afraid of it. I went back the next morning. Priya wasn't there. A younger man dealt with me, efficient, no bergamot in his manner at all, and I was glad of it. I told him I wanted to do two things. First, I wanted the full assignment. All 11 years. 660,000 pounds. Second, and here he paused and looked at me differently. I wanted to take out a lifespan-backed loan against the remainder of Sophia's treatment cost. The difference was 240,000 pounds. There was only one form of collateral I had left. The loan would be secured against the borrower's lifespan, he said. But Mr. Carter, after a full assignment, your own lifespan is... There's nothing to secure it against. You'd have no time to pledge. Not mine, I said. He understood then. I watched him understand. He was very young. I think it was the first time someone had asked him this. The collateral, I said, and my voice did not shake, which surprised me, would be future years, drawn from my daughter, after her recovery, once she's well, once she's grown and her reading is restored, the years would be repaid out of hers, a lien, held against her future. You'd be mortgaging her life to save it, he said quietly. I'd be lending her mine, I said, and asking her to lend a little of her own. That's all the family is. I told myself that. God help me. I told myself that, sitting in that chair. I told myself that 10 years drawn from a healthy adult who'd otherwise have 80 was a fair price for the 80 itself. I told myself she would understand. I told myself a great many things that morning, and the worst of it is that some of them were even true. He brought a manager. The manager brought the contracts. And in the end, because money does not care what it costs, because the machine had a row for exactly this, and had clearly had it for a long time, they let me do it. The procedure for a full assignment is not like fixing a roof. They take you to a white room. There is a chair, the kind you see at the dentist, and there is the thin tablet, and there is a doctor present because the law requires one. They explain that the assignment is irreversible. They explain that you will not feel different immediately. They explain that your reading after the procedure will show a figure they are required by statute to disclose, and they ask if you wish to know it. Most people, they told me, say no. I said yes. The doctor pressed her thumb to the screen. She asked me to press mine. There was the chime, that soft, obscene chime, the same one from my childhood, the same one a phone makes when a payment goes through. 660,000 pounds moved into an account in my daughter's name, and the lien was recorded against her future, and somewhere in a server farm, a number that represented the rest of my life was set, very gently, to a new value. Would you like to see it? The doctor asked. She turned the screen toward me. It said, 8 months. I had not understood until that moment what a full assignment of 11 years means when you have 11 years. It does not leave you with 0. The body needs a little time to wind down. The system leaves what it calls a settlement period. 8 months. They had taken everything and left me 8 months. The way you'd leave a man enough water to crawl out of the desert and no more. I thought I would feel terror. Instead, I felt the strangest thing. I felt light. I had spent my whole life carrying the weight of the years ahead of me. The worry, the saving, the dread of the future. And now I had no future to dread. I had 8 months and a daughter who was going to live, and the arithmetic, for the first time in my life, came out even. I went to the hospital and I told them the treatment was funded, and the tired doctor with the tired eyes stared at me for a long moment, and I think he knew exactly what I had done, and I think it was not the first time he had seen it, and I think a part of him died a little too. But he booked her in. That was all I needed. That night, I lay next to Sophia and listened to her breathe, the slightly wrong rhythm of it, and I thought, in 18 months, that breathing will be even and strong, and I will not be here to hear it, and that is the best trade I will ever make. She started treatment on a Tuesday. The center was bright and clean, and the staff called her by her name and let her decorate her IV stand with stickers. The therapy was hard. There were weeks she was sicker than the illness had ever made her, when I held a bowl for her at 3 in the morning and sang the songs from the flat films under my breath. But it worked. Slowly, then certainly, the marrow inside my daughter's bones remembered how to keep her alive. The bruises faded, the tiredness lifted. By the spring she was running again, and the sound of her running through the flat was the most expensive sound in the world, and I had paid for it, and it was worth every month. I had 8 months. I had told no one. I lived them the way you'd think a man would only live in a film, deliberately, hungrily, paying attention. I took her to the sea. I taught her to ride a bike in the car park behind the flats, running behind her with my hand on the saddle until the morning I let go, and she didn't notice and rode the whole length of the tarmac shouting my name, not knowing I'd already let go, not knowing that letting go was the only thing I had left to teach her. I wrote her letters, 40 of them, one for every birthday I wouldn't see, sealed and dated and hidden in a box at the back of my wardrobe, with a note on top that just said, "For Sophia. Open one a year. Take your time. You have so much of it." I got my affairs, such as they were, into order. I found her a place to live, my sister, her Aunt Claire, in Bristol, with a garden and a spare room already painted the wrong shade of pink, that Sophia would pretend to hate and secretly love. I did not tell Sophia anything. I told myself I was protecting her. The truth, which I only understood near the end, is that I was protecting myself. I could not bear to watch her watch me go. The settlement period does what it says. It is not violent. It is a winding down, a clock losing its tension. In the last weeks I tired the way she had once tired, and I understood the apology in her eyes because I felt it too. The awful sorrow of becoming trouble to someone you love. Claire came. She knew. She held my hand in the kitchen while Sophia slept, and she said, "Daniel, you have to tell her. You can't let her find a stranger in the morning." And I said I would. And I kept not doing it. Because every hour I didn't say it was an hour, she got to be just a girl with a father. I died on a Thursday in October, in the flat my own father had sold a year of his life to keep dry, with my daughter asleep down the hall, 11 years old, cancer-free, with a reading of 79 years stretched out ahead of her like a staircase made of light. She did not get to say goodbye. That is the one thing I would change. It is the thing the dead don't get a vote on. I have told this story as if I am still here to tell it. I'm not. Forgive me the trick. There's a reason for it, and you'll see it now. What I could not have known. What no father can know, because the future is the one country we sell without ever being allowed to visit, is what happens to a child who learns, years later, exactly what was done for her. Sophia grew up. Of course she did. That was the entire point. She grew up in Bristol, in the spare room painted the wrong pink. She was angry for a long time, the way children are angry at parents who leave, even the ones who leave through a door they didn't choose. Claire told her I'd been sick. It was easier. It was even true in a way. Sophia opened one letter a year on her birthday, the way I'd asked, and Claire said those days were the only days the anger went quiet. She drew all through her teens. The staircase made of light, over and over, but now there was sometimes a figure at the top, and sometimes the figure looked like me. She got into art school, then into the thing she'd been reaching for the whole time without a name for it. She designed spaces, buildings, places for people to be. She built a hospital wing, years later, full of light, with a staircase at the center that you could climb just to feel like you were going somewhere. She was, by every measure, alive. Gloriously, ordinarily, completely alive. She was 26 when she found out. It was the lean. It surfaced the way these things do. A letter from Life Exchange on the occasion of her reaching the age at which the collateral matured. Notice of obligation. 10 years drawn against the loan taken out in 2041, now due for settlement from the lifespan of the named beneficiary. The beneficiary being her. The loan having paid for a course of treatment she'd been told, her whole life, had been a miracle covered by a charity. She went to the Life Exchange branch, a different one, a different city, but the same blue hourglass turned on its side, and she made them show her the original file, and there it was, the full assignment. 11 years, the whole of a man's life, sold on a Tuesday in 2041. The settlement reading 8 months, my thumbprint next to hers on the loan that had made up the difference, the loan secured against her own future, the loan I had taken out so that the years she'd lose would be hers to give and not mine to lack. She understood it all at once, the way I had understood the doctor's number all at once, in a quiet that has no bottom. Her father had not been taken from her by an illness. Her father had taken himself apart, year by year, and handed the pieces across a frosted glass desk so that she could stand in that office 26 years old and furious and breathing. She read the 40 letters that night, all of them in one sitting, out of order, which I'd told her not to do, and I forgive her for it, because some rules are made to be broken by the people you love most. She found the one I'd written for the birthday I'd guessed she'd need it most, the 26th, because that was the age her mother had been when she left, and I'd always feared it would be the year Sophia decided love was a sum not worth solving. In it, I'd written the truest thing I knew, Sophia. If you're reading this and you found out what I did, I need you to hear me, even though I can't say it out loud anymore. I did not give up my life. I spent it. There is a difference, and it's the only difference that matters. A life isn't the years. I had 11, and I'd have traded them for 2 if 2 was the price of you. The years were just the currency. You were the thing I bought. And my love, you were the best money I ever spent. Here is the part I was never meant to see, and the part that breaks open the reason a dead man is still talking. She could have paid the lien. By then she had the money. She'd built a life. She earned well. She could have cleared the 10 years with cash, the way the time rich do, buying their futures back so they never have to feel the cost in their own flesh. The branch told her so. Settle in pounds, they said, and your reading stays whole. 79 years, untouched. She didn't. She did something the system had no row for, something they had to fetch a manager to even process, the way they'd once fetched a manager for me. She paid the lien in years. She let them draw the 10 years from her own lifespan, not because she had to, but because she wanted to feel, in her own bones, in her own future, the exact weight of what had been carried for her. And then she did the thing that made the young man behind the desk go very still. She took out a second assignment, 10 more years, and she put them, every one, into a fund she had set up that month, a charity with a name that was not subtle. That was the least subtle thing she ever made. The Carter Settlement. It buys time for the time poor. It pays the readings of children whose fathers have 11 years and a bill for £900,000. It finds the men sitting in the dark with the radiators going cold, and it walks through the door they cannot walk through themselves, and it makes the arithmetic come out even, so that no one else ever has to sell the whole of a life to keep the smallest part of it alive. She gave away 20 years. She, who'd been given everything I had. The accountant she hired begged her not to. "You're a young woman," he said. "You have so much time." And Sophia, my Sophia, with her mother's eyes and her stomach-deep laugh and her staircases made of light, looked at him the way I'd once looked at a man in a gray coat and said, "Time isn't the thing. My father taught me that. The years are just the currency. The question is what you buy with them. I'm told there's a garden now at the hospital wing she built, the one with the staircase at its heart. There's a bench in it, and a small brass plate on the bench, and the plate doesn't have my name on it, because she said a name would make it about a person, and it was never about a person. It says only this: a year of your life is worth exactly what you give it for. Spend well." She sits there sometimes, I'm told, in the early morning, before the city hurries itself awake, one of the only people left who isn't in a rush, though not because she's rich in the way they mean. She sits and she watches the light come up the staircase, step by step, the way she drew it when she was 9 and didn't know yet what was at the top. I know what's at the top now. I've known since a Thursday in October. It's her. It was always going to be her. And if you're sitting in the dark right now with your own cold radiators and your own impossible number, doing the arithmetic of someone you love, I won't tell you what to do. No one has the right. I'll only tell you what I learned on the far side of the chime, in the White Room, in the 8 months, in the running footsteps that were worth more than every year I'll never see. You will not get to keep your time. Nobody does. The only choice you ever truly have is what you trade it for, and whether, when the clock runs out, the sum comes out even. Mine did. Spend well.